Rector, Dean of Research, professors, members of the Hanken community, ladies and gentlemen. I am deeply honored that Hanken has appointed me as Professor of Management and Organization. In this inaugural lecture, I will discuss how leadership research can benefit from a closer integration with social network perspectives. 20 years ago, I began my academic career as a doctoral student at the Helsinki School of Economics, today known as Aalto University School of Business. Back then, I was an aspiring strategy scholar. I wasn't particularly interested in leadership or social networks. And if someone had told me that I will end up studying these topics, I might have reconsidered my career plans. But I suppose I did what Mika instructed and improvised and didn't plan ahead. So here I am. And looking back, I can actually see that the seeds were already there. From the very beginning of my academic journey, I have been intrigued by tensions, by paradoxes, and by the kinds of contradictions that organizations and their leaders face every day. Paradoxes are not simple trade-offs where one chooses one option over the other. They are situations where two seemingly opposing forces are deeply interdependent. Organizations function not despite these tensions, but because of them. For example, organizations must be efficient today, and they have to be innovative for tomorrow. Leaders must expect high performance from their followers, while also safeguarding their well-being. Sustainability and change, guidance and autonomy, and the list goes on. Leadership in many ways is the art of navigating these paradoxes. And over time, I started thinking and noticed that leadership research itself is caught in a paradox. On one side, psychological approaches emphasize individual behavior, leadership styles, and relational influence. On the other, sociological perspectives emphasize social structures. Our field has largely privileged the psychological lens, overlooking the fact that organizational behavior is profoundly shaped by social structure, by who interacts with whom, and how individuals are positioned within networks that provide access to information, resources, and influence. In organizations, people are inseparable from social structures. And crucially, leaders can shape these structures. Given that leadership is defined as influencing others toward a common goal, we must ask, what does influence actually mean in organizations where social structures shape behavior? I argue that the role of social structure has received limited attention because most leadership research has relied on a dyadic lens. From early analysis of leader traits to more modern analysis of leadership styles, scholars have focused on how leaders and followers relate to one another and how those dyadic relationships influence work outcomes. These insights are important, but they are also incomplete. Human cognition is fundamentally triadic. We do not simply relate to another person. We relate to another person in the presence of the third person. When a third actor enters the relationship, everything changes. Consider a leader and a follower. add a second follower, and new dynamics emerge. Hierarchy, politics, social comparison, justice, status, exclusion, inclusion. And here, 3 is a magic number. In groups of 3, we have 3 relationships. A triad is a microcosm of the organization where we can simultaneously process interdependencies among all actors. That is not possible with 4 actors, only with 3. Therefore, even in larger groups, we process social reality through overlapping triads. Our cognition simplifies complexity by triangulating. Research in social cognition shows that even infants engage in triadic cognition. A child follows a parent's gaze to identify a shared object of attention and uses finger pointing to direct the parent's attention to things or people they want the parent to notice. This development of shared attention forms the foundation of joint activity and the pursuit of common goals. When we attend to something together, an idea, a problem, a strategy, we do more than observe it. We observe others observing it. We infer their intentions, motivation, and capabilities. We learn to coordinate and collaborate. Joint attention creates shared awareness. I know that you see it, and I know that you know that I see it. And from that shared awareness, commitment emerges. I recently found myself in a supermarket watching someone pick out cereal. Why would I care what someone chooses for cereal and eats for breakfast? Well, I don't. I was unconsciously following the attention of that person. We are wired to notice what others notice. What other people are looking is interesting to us. Attention is contagious. And all of this brings us back to leadership. Leaders should leverage and build on these inherent tendencies of humans. Beyond directing and persuading employees to focus on certain goals, leaders should connect their followers with other relevant actors whose joint attention can deepen engagement and improve performance. Leadership is, at its core, about directing and orchestrating attention to common goals, and attention among the actors pursuing those goals. Therefore, leadership research cannot focus only on leader influence on followers, but leaders must and should become the architects of social structures. And here, a functional theory of mind becomes a focal condition of effective leadership. Theory of mind refers to the capacity that we humans have to imagine how others might perceive situations. Understanding that others have perspectives, thoughts, and feelings that are different from one's own. For example, I don't expect my wife, Tiina, to like all the same movies that I like. I know that she has her own preferences, and to some extent, though not always, I can imagine that what she would like to watch. Theory of mind is one of the key reasons humans can deliberately build and reshape social structures. Relying on their theory of mind, leaders can ask, how might Peter view this issue? What is Rachel's perspective on it? And then engage in triadic processing. How will Peter and Rachel make sense of this issue together? And will their relationship enable joint action? How will the presence of one influence the motivation, thoughts, and feelings of the other? The first task of leadership, then, is to create connections. Not randomly, but mindfully and deliberately, bringing together individuals whose interaction will improve the quality of attention and facilitate commitment. The second task is to maintain separation where necessary. Some connections enable progress, others undermine it. Certain combinations amplify creativity, others produce biases. Some relationships support collaboration, others lead to conflict. Leadership therefore involves both connecting and separating, integrating and differentiating. The key social cognitive skill of leadership is knowing which is needed when. To make these decisions, leaders need a functional theory of mind and cognitive triangulation among various triads of actors and issues. Through these decisions, who collaborates, who observes, who influences whom, leaders shape the social architecture of the organization. At its best, the architecture facilitates high-quality attention and transforms it into joint action. At its worst, it produces passivity, resistance, and misdirected effort. And nothing I have said is completely new, but I hope it offers a new perspective. Current approaches focus on how leaders behave and how followers react, often overlooking the fact that employees are embedded in complex relationship structures and profoundly shape what they do and how they do it. And here lies the final paradox. The more we focus exclusively on leaders, the less we may understand about leadership. If we succeed in shifting our perspective, leadership becomes less about leaders and more about creating connections so people can work together toward a common goal. That is the perspective I hope to advance in my research and in my role here at Hanken. Thank you.